Hey folks, gather round and listen close, 'cause this here's a story that's been whispered through the hills and hollows of Appalachia for near 100 years. They call it the haunting mystery of the Whittaker family, a story that begins deep in the shadow of the Blue Ridge Mountains, in a time when roads were made of mud and the world seemed smaller, quieter, and stranger. It was the spring of 1919 when the first traveler came across the Whittaker place. Folks in town had heard of them, sure. A family that kept to themselves, living up past the old coal road where the trees grew thick enough to blot out the sun. Nobody knew exactly how many lived there, but stories said there were brothers and sisters, a mother long past, and a father who'd gone mad after the mines closed. Their cabin sat on a slope above a dried-up creek, the boards grey with age, the windows clouded with dust. The traveler was a man named Tom Weaver, a peddler from Charleston, who wandered from one mountain town to the next selling pots, mirrors and little bits of silver jewelry. Folks said he'd never been afraid of anything, not storms, not wolves, not even the stories old mountain men used to tell about spirits in the woods. But when he came back down from the ridge that day, pale as a ghost, stammering about what he'd seen, people began to wonder if maybe the old tales had some truth after all. Tom told them that when he reached the Whittaker place, the air was strange, still, heavy and quiet, like the whole mountain was holding its breath. He knocked on the door, but nobody answered. So he walked around the back and found a young man standing barefoot in the mud, staring at him with wide, unblinking eyes. His clothes were torn, his hair tangled, and when he tried to speak, it came out as a sort of grunt, low, guttural, and hollow. Then another figure appeared, a woman maybe, but she moved like a shadow, quick and crooked, disappearing back into the trees before Tom could say a word. After that day, no one ever saw Tom Weaver again. They found his cart at the edge of town, his mule still tied to the post, but the man himself had vanished. Some said he went mad and wandered into the woods. Others swore he'd been taken, not by men, but by something far older. Years passed, and the Whittakers stayed up there, alone in their mountain hollow. Children grew up hearing warnings not to go near the ridge. "Stay clear of the old road past Buck's Creek," their elders would say. That's Whittaker land. But there was always someone who didn't listen. In the fall of 1933, a group of boys went up there on a dare. Only 2 came back. The others, gone without a trace. The survivors wouldn't talk about what they saw. Just that it was dark before they made it back down, and something had followed them through the woods, breathing close enough that they could hear it in the fog. By the 1940s, the legend had taken root. Some said the Whittakers were cursed. Others said they weren't human anymore, that years of isolation and inbreeding had twisted them into something else, something caught between man and beast. Hunters claimed they heard howls up near the ridge at night. Not wolves, not bears, but something that sounded too much like people. Then, in the harsh winter of 1951, a man named Sheriff Roy Barker decided he'd seen enough of this mountain superstition. He took a small team of deputies and hiked up to the Whittaker property to settle it once and for all. What they found that day Roy never spoke about publicly, but one of the deputies, years later, drunk at a bar, let slip that there were things no man should ever see. Figures crawling on all fours, skin pale as snow, eyes like fogged glass. He said they weren't dangerous, just wrong, like they'd forgotten how to be people. The state came in the following year, trying to relocate the family to a nearby town. But the Whittakers wouldn't leave. They fought, screamed, and vanished into the woods before they could be taken. A few were found years later, living in shacks or under bridges in small mountain towns, barely speaking, always staring at the ground. The last known Whittaker was said to have died in 1983 in a county hospital, mumbling the same few words over and over, "Still in the woods." But locals swear the story didn't end there. Hikers still say they hear strange noises on moonless nights near the old mine road. Some claim they've seen flickers of light, lanterns swaying deep in the forest when no one else should be there. Others say if you walk too far past the creek, you'll hear footsteps behind you, soft and shuffling, keeping pace no matter how fast you move. In 1991, a group of college students from Virginia took a camera crew up there to make a documentary about the Whittaker legend. Only one tape survived, the rest destroyed in what the police called an accident. The footage that remains shows nothing clear, just shapes moving through fog, a cabin in the distance, and the sound of breathing that doesn't belong to anyone behind the camera. Now, over a century since Tom Weaver vanished, people still talk about the Whittakers in hushed tones. They say the land never healed, that the soil itself feels wrong underfoot. Trees don't grow right there. They twist toward the light like they're reaching for something that isn't there. Hunters leave offerings at the edge of the ridge, tobacco, corn, or old coins, just to stay on the safe side. No one knows the full truth, whether it was madness, curse, or just the cruel hand of time. But if you stand up there on a foggy night and the wind moves through the trees just right, you might hear it. A rustle, a shuffle, and the faint echo of a family that time tried to forget. The Whittakers, still watching, still waiting deep in the heart of Appalachia, where the mist never clears and the past never dies. That's the story, old as the hills themselves. And maybe, just maybe, if you ever find yourself wandering those woods after dark, you'll feel what Tom Weaver felt. That strange stillness, that heavy air, like the mountain itself is holding its breath, waiting for you to listen.